Guys, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, then welcome. Today I will be doing Tag Tuesday. So for this week's Tag Tuesday, I will be doing the meme book tag, which is a book tag that is going around right now. As always, I will link the creator to this tag down below. I believe one of the creators is Dylan the Reader 5. I don't remember who the other one is, but I will link both their channels down below if you want to check them out. So this is a tag that corresponds with the most popular memes, and we are answering questions based on those memes. Let's just get into the questions. Question number 1 is Crying Kim Kardashian. A book that made you cry. One of the books that made me cry, because there have been a lot of books that have made me cry, is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I remember finishing this book at like 5 o'clock in the morning and just like being a sobbing mess because one of the characters' backstories is just so heartbreaking and I just really felt for him. And I hated this book because it made me cry. It gave me so many feelings, but at the same time, I really love this book. A lot of conflicting feelings with this one. Question number 2 is Salt Bae, a book that needed a little something more. I have to say, I think Glass Sword, the second book in the Red Queen series, needed something more, and I think that thing it needed more focus on the relationships, and it needed to take a step back from the action. I feel like this book had too much action and not enough focus on the characters themselves and their relationships. I feel like that was a big problem with me in this book, and I think a lot of the book was just very boring. It's like a 3-star read. It was okay, but it definitely needed more focus on the characters. There was just too much going on. This question is Guy Thinking, a book whose hype you don't understand. This was an easy one for me. I'm going with Fangirl. I don't get the hype for this one. I despise this book. I understand why people like it. They can relate to the main character, but even so, I'm just like, why is this book so popular? It's not that good. Question number 5 is Evil Patrick. So I changed the question for this because the question is a guilty pleasure read. I am so sick of this question appearing in every single tag because I personally don't really have guilty pleasure reads. For every time this question comes up, I say Red Queen because that is the closest one I can come up with, but I'm so sick of this question that every time it appears, I'm not answering it and I'm choosing a different question because I can't stand this question anymore. It's getting on my last nerves. So I'm sorry to the creators, but I am going to make up my own question for the Evil Patrick meme. And for that one, I am asking the question, who is your favorite villain? So I have 2 for this one. Speaking of Red Queen, I really love the villain in Red Queen, but I can't go into detail on who that is because it's a spoiler. But if you do know the Red Queen series, you know who I'm talking about. I love the villain because he is like, you never would have expected him to become the villain. At least to me, it was a huge shock. But for the case of actually saying the name of a villain I really love the villain Drake from the Gone series. I love him because he is the most sinister villain I have ever read about. He is only 14 years old, but he is one of the most brutal, evilest people or characters I have ever read about. He is so bad, but I love him because he's so bad. I just really enjoy that character. Next is Meryl Streep Shouting, a book that you're always hyping up. The Problem with Forever, of course, because this is my favorite book of all time and I talk about it so much, I'm constantly hyping it up and you definitely should read it. Next is the Successful Baby meme, a book, whether you liked it or not, that you felt accomplished after reading. So because of the size of A Court of Mist and Fury by J Maas, the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, I felt super accomplished after finishing this book. I think this is the biggest book I've ever read. Well, at the time I first read it, it was the biggest book I had ever read, but the third book is even more bigger than A Court of Mist and Fury, but at the time I read this, it was the biggest book I'd ever read. So because of that, I felt really accomplished after finishing it because I'm like, yeah, I read this huge book. And it just gave me a very big sense of accomplishment after I read it. Like, I was so glad I got through it, and it was a really big challenge for me. Next is Pennywise, a book with a promising concept, or a book that you had high expectations for but ultimately let you down. I have to go with Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. I really like the synopsis to this book. It's about this family of girls who can grow flowers from their hands, which sounds really, really cool. And another thing that really caught my attention about the synopsis of this book is that whenever these girls love someone, that person disappears. So it just had this very like mystery element that I was very interested in. But then I actually read the book and it was really not really like the synopsis at all. Like, it had what the synopsis said in it, but the way it was executed, I just wasn't a fan of. I felt like the writing was just a little too flowery for me, that it got on my nerves, so I just didn't really like the book at all. In fact, I think I DNF'd it, and yeah, just didn't really like it. It had such a promising concept, but it just let me down. Next is Headphones Guy, an audiobook that you enjoy. I really enjoyed the audiobook to A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. The narrator to those audiobooks has such like a soft sounding voice that kind of puts me to sleep, but I really like it. She also has a lot of varying voice tones for all of the characters, which I think is really cool. And I was really sad when they changed the audiobook narrator to A Court of Wings and Ruin. It's not the same narrator. The narrator for that book isn't bad, but just not as good as the one for the other books. So I was disappointed when they changed the narrator. Next is Distracted Guy. 2 books. One you've been neglecting on your TBR for a long time, and a new one that's distracting you or piquing your interest. So for the one I've been neglecting, this is actually an author that I've been neglecting for so long and it's irritating me. That is Casey West. I keep saying that I'm going to read her books and I just don't. Like, other books come along and I get distracted, but I still want to read her books. I read one book from her and I just want to read more because she tends to write the kind of books I love. They are fluffy, YA, contemporary, which is one of my favorite genres. So I just need to read her books. Need to stop neglecting them. For the book I am currently distracted by, and when this book comes out, I am dropping every book I'm reading to focus on this one, is A Court of Frost and Starlight, the novella to the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I'm so excited for this book that I know when I get it in my hands, that's all I'm going to be focusing on, so I'm definitely going to be distracted by this book. Next is Cash Me Outside Girl, a book that tried to be something that it's not. Pretentious, didn't live up to what it was marketed as, etc. I'm going with Throne of Glass by J Maas. This book was marketed as a book about an assassin, but Selena really isn't an assassin. We never see her actually do things an assassin does. We never see her kill anyone. This book is basically has a lot of telling, not enough showing that Selena is an assassin. So that got on my nerves. I wanted to actually see her do assassin things, but that didn't happen in the book or the series at all. We never see her actually killing someone, which really irritated me. Next is Dog in Fire. How many unread books do you own? Way too many. I counted and I own, I believe, over 280 unread books, which is way too much, and I need to stop buying books. As of right now though, all of my books are in storage, so I don't even have them. I've been getting my books from the library, so I actually kind of have a weight lifted off my shoulders because I don't have my books with me right now, but that doesn't mean that I have even more books on my TBR. Even if it's not my physical TBR, I just have so many unread books that I want to read. Next is a bonus. Pick a meme that wasn't featured in this tag and pair a book with it. So I actually picked 3 memes and made up my own questions for them because these are some of my favorite memes that weren't brought out in the questions. So I'm like, I'm gonna pick some memes and invent my own questions. So that's what I did. So let's get into them. The first one is the Fry Money meme from Futurama. I love that show, so I really love this meme. And the question I made up for this one is an auto-buy offer. that has to be Jennifer L. Armentrout, my favorite author. I want to own and buy all of her books. I don't own all of them yet, but that's going to change because I just want to read all of her books. Next is another favorite of mine, Ugandan Knuckles, a road trip book, because Ugandan Knuckles says you know the way, so I'm like a road trip book, because on a road trip you're going away and you should know where you're going if you're going on a road trip. So for that one, I picked The Edge of Never by J.R. Redmirsky, I always pronounce her name wrong. This is a new adult book that I just read recently and I really liked it. And it is the first book in a trilogy, so I am going to get into the rest of this series. And this book does have a road trip in it because it's about a girl going away from home for a while because she is just tired at home, so she wants to go on a trip. And so she does that. She also meets a guy on her way going through this road trip, so it is a romance book. It is really good. I really enjoyed it. And the last one I have is Talkback SpongeBob. I love this meme. It's so funny. A character everyone hates but you defend. Don't kill me, but I would defend Tamlin from A Court of Thorns and Roses. Not saying that this character is super flawed. He's done some very crappy things. But the reason I defend him is that he had good intentions. Like, some of the things he did was for good reasons. So for that, I defend him. Also, later on in this series, he has a lot of redeemable qualities about him, but still enough to say that he has done really crappy things and his mindset for certain things is very problematic. But I still defend him when people give him a lot of crap because I'm like, well, he is redeemable. He is. I don't love him as much as I did originally though, because he has done some very bad, problematic things. So that is the end of the meme book tag. Hope you guys enjoy it. I will tag you to do it. If you make videos, if you have a blog, do this tag. It was super fun. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also click the